Costa Rica. Costa Rica is a country in Central America, bordered by Nicaragua to the north, the Caribbean Sea to the northeast, Panama to the southeast, the Pacific Ocean to the southwest, and Ecuador to the south of Cocos Island. It has a population of around 5 million in a land area of 51,060 square kilometers, 19,714 square miles. An estimated 333,980 people live in the capital and largest city, San Jose, with around 2 million people in the surrounding metropolitan area. The sovereign state is a unitary presidential constitutional republic. It is known for its long-standing and stable democracy, and for its highly educated workforce, most of whom speak English. The country spends roughly 6.9% of its budget 2016 on education, compared to a global average of 4.4%. Its economy, once heavily dependent on agriculture, has diversified to include sectors such as finance, corporate services for foreign companies, pharmaceuticals, and ecotourism. Many foreign manufacturing and services companies operate in Costa Rica's Free Trade Zones (FTZ), where they benefit from investment and tax incentives. Costa Rica was sparsely inhabited by indigenous peoples before coming under Spanish rule in the 16th century. It remained a peripheral colony of the empire until independence as part of the First Mexican Empire, followed by membership in the United Provinces of Central America, from which it formally declared independence in 1847. Following the brief Costa Rican Civil War in 1948, it permanently abolished its army in 1949, becoming one of only a few sovereign nations without a standing army. The country has consistently performed favorably in the Human Development Index (HDI), placing 63rd in the world as of 2017, among the highest of any Latin American nation. It has also been cited by the United Nations Development Programme (UNDP) as having attained much higher human development than other countries at the same income levels, with a better record on human development and inequality than the median of the region. Costa Rica also has progressive environmental policies. It is the only country to meet all 5 UNDP criteria established to measure environmental sustainability. It was ranked 42nd in the world, and 3rd in the Americas, in the 2016 Environmental Performance Index, and was twice ranked the best-performing country in the New Economics Foundation's (NEF) Happy Planet Index, which measures environmental sustainability, and was identified by the NEF as the greenest country in the world in 2009. Costa Rica plans to become a carbon-neutral country by 2021. By 2019, 99.62% of its electricity was generated from green sources, particularly hydro, wind, geothermal and solar. Geography of Costa Rica. Costa Rica borders the Caribbean Sea to the east, and the Pacific Ocean to the west. Costa Rica also borders Nicaragua to the north and Panama to the south. The highest point in the country is Cerro Chirripó, at 3,819 meters (12,530 feet). The highest volcano in the country is the Irazu volcano, 3,431 meters or 11,257 feet, and the largest lake is Lake Arenal. There are 14 known volcanoes in Costa Rica, and 6 of them have been active in the last 75 years. History of Costa Rica. Historians have classified the indigenous people of Costa Rica as belonging to the intermediate area, where the peripheries of the Mesoamerican and Andean native cultures overlapped. More recently, pre-Columbian Costa Rica has also been described as part of the Istmo-Colombian area. Stone tools, the oldest evidence of human occupation in Costa Rica, are associated with the arrival of various groups of hunter-gatherers about 10,000 to 7,000 years BCE in the Turrialba Valley. The presence of Clovis culture-type spearheads and arrows from South America opens the possibility that, in this area, 2 different cultures coexisted. Agriculture became evident in the populations that lived in Costa Rica about 5,000 years ago. They mainly grew tubers and roots. For the 1st and 2nd millennia BCE there were already settled farming communities. These were small and scattered, although the timing of the transition from hunting and gathering to agriculture as the main livelihood in the territory is still unknown. The earliest use of pottery appears around 2000 to 3000 BCE. Shards of pots, cylindrical vases, platters, gourds and other forms of vases decorated with grooves, prints, and some modeled after animals have been found. The impact of indigenous peoples on modern Costa Rican culture has been relatively small compared to other nations, since the country lacked a strong native civilization to begin with. Most of the native population was absorbed into the Spanish-speaking colonial society through intermarriage, except for some small remnants, the most significant of which are the Bribri and Baruca tribes who still inhabit the mountains of the Cordillera de Talamanca in the southeastern part of Costa Rica, near the frontier with Panama. Independence of Costa Rica. Like the rest of Central America, Costa Rica never fought for independence from Spain. On 15 September 1821, after the final Spanish defeat in the Mexican War of Independence 1810–21, the authorities in Guatemala declared the independence of all of Central America. That date is still celebrated as Independence Day in Costa Rica, even though, technically, under the Spanish Constitution of 1812 that had been readopted in 1820, Nicaragua and Costa Rica had become an autonomous province with its capital in León. Upon independence, Costa Rican authorities faced the issue of officially deciding the future of the country. Two bands formed, the Imperialists, defended by Cartago and Heredia cities which were in favor of joining the Mexican Empire, and the Republicans, represented by the cities of San Jose and Alajuela who defended full independence. Because of the lack of agreement on these two possible outcomes, the First Civil War of Costa Rica occurred. The Battle of Ochomogo took place on the hill of Ochomogo, located in the Central Valley in 1823. The conflict was won by the Republicans and, as a consequence, the city of Cartago lost its status as the capital, which moved to San Jose. In 1838, long after the Federal Republic of Central America ceased to function in practice, Costa Rica formally withdrew and proclaimed itself sovereign. The considerable distance and poor communication routes between Guatemala City and the Central Plateau, where most of the Costa Rican population lived then and still lives now, meant the local population had little allegiance to the federal government in Guatemala. From colonial times to now, Costa Rica's reluctance to become economically tied with the rest of Central America has been a major obstacle to efforts for greater regional integration. Climate in Costa Rica. Costa Rica experiences a tropical climate year-round. There are two seasons. The summer, or dry season is December to April, and winter, or rainy season is May to November. Economy of Costa Rica. The country has been considered economically stable with moderate inflation, estimated at 2.6% in 2017, and moderately high growth in GDP, which increased from $41.3 billion in 2011 to $52.6 billion in 2015. The estimated GDP for 2017 is $61.5 billion and the estimated GDP per capita purchasing power parity is $12,382. The growing debt and budget deficit are the country's primary concerns. A 2017 study by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development warned that reducing the foreign debt must be a very high priority for the government. Other fiscal reforms were also recommended to moderate the budget deficit. Many foreign companies, manufacturing and services, operate in Costa Rica's Free Trade Zones (FTZ), where they benefit from investment and tax incentives. Well over half of that type of investment has come from the U.S. According to the government, the zones supported over 82,000 direct jobs and 43,000 indirect jobs in 2015. Companies with facilities in the America Free Zone in Heredia, for example, include Intel, Dell, HP, Bayer, Bosch, DHL, IBM and OK Industries. Of the GDP, 5.5% is generated by agriculture, 18.6% by industry and 75.9% by services. 2016, agriculture employs 12.9% of the labor force, industry 18.57%, services 69.02%. 2016, for the region, its unemployment level is moderately high, 8.2% in 2016, according to the IMF. Although 20.5% of the population lives below the poverty line, 2017, Costa Rica has one of the highest standards of living in Central America. High-quality health care is provided by the government at low cost to the users. Housing is also very affordable. Costa Rica is recognized in Latin America for the quality of its educational system. Because of its educational system, Costa Rica has one of the highest literacy rates in Latin America, 97%. General basic education is mandatory and provided without cost to the user. A U.S. government report confirms that the country has historically placed a high priority on education and the creation of a skilled workforce, but notes that the high school dropout rate is increasing. As well, Costa Rica would benefit from more courses in languages such as English, Portuguese, Mandarin and French, and also in science, technology, engineering and math (STEM). Tourist palaces in Costa Rica. Costa Rica is the most visited nation in the Central American region, with 2.9 million foreign visitors in 2016, up 10% from 2015. In 2015, the tourism sector was responsible for 5.8% of the country's GDP, or $3.4 billion. In 2016, the highest number of tourists came from the United States, with 1 million visitors, followed by Europe with 434,884 arrivals. According to Costa Rica Vacations, once tourists arrive in the country, 22% go to Tamarindo, 18% go to Arenal, 17% pass through Liberia, where the Daniel Aduber Quiros International Airport is located, 16% go to San Jose, the country's capital, passing through Juan Santamaria International Airport, while 18% choose Manuel Antonio and 7% Monteverde. By 2004, tourism was generating more revenue and foreign exchange than bananas and coffee combined. In 2016, the World Travel and Tourism Council's estimates indicated a direct contribution to the GDP of 5.1% and 110,000 direct jobs in Costa Rica. The total number of jobs indirectly supported by tourism was 271,000. A pioneer of ecotourism, Costa Rica draws many tourists to its extensive series of national parks and other protected areas. In the 2011 Travel and Tourism Competitiveness Index, Costa Rica ranked 44th in the world and second among Latin American countries after Mexico in 2011. By the time of the 2017 report, the country had reached 38th place, slightly behind Panama. The Ethical Traveler groups 10 countries on their 2017 list of the world's 10 best ethical destinations includes Costa Rica. The country scored highest in environmental protection among the winners. Costa Rica began reversing deforestation in the 1990s, and they are moving towards using only renewable energy. Government and politics in Costa Rica. Costa Rica is composed of 7 provinces, which in turn are divided into 81 cantons, Spanish, canton, plural cantones, each of which is directed by a mayor. Mayors are chosen democratically every 4 years by each canton. There are no provincial legislatures. The cantons are further divided into 473 districts, distritos. Demographics of Costa Rica. The 2011 census counted a population of 4.3 million people distributed among the following groups: 83.6% whites or mestizos, 6.7% mulattoes, 2.4% Native American, 1.1% black or Afro-Caribbean. The census showed 1.1% as other, 2.9%, 141,304 people as none, and 2.2%, 107,196 people as unspecified. By 2016, the UN estimation for the population was around 5 million. In 2011, there were over 104,000 Native American or indigenous inhabitants, representing 2.4% of the population. Most of them live in secluded reservations, distributed among 8 ethnic groups: Quitarisi in the Central Valley, Matambu or Corotega, Guanacaste, Maleku, Northern Alajuela, Brai, Southern Atlantic, Cabecar, Cordillera de Talamanca, Guaymi, Southern Costa Rica, along the Panama border, Baruca, Southern Costa Rica, and Turaba, Southern Costa Rica. The population includes European Costa Ricans, of European ancestry, primarily of Spanish descent, with significant numbers of Italian, German, English, Dutch, French, Irish, Portuguese, and Polish families, as well as a sizable Jewish community. The majority of the Afro-Costa Ricans are Creole English-speaking descendants of 19th-century black Jamaican immigrant workers. The 2011 census classified 83.6% of the population as white or mestizo, the latter are persons of combined European and Amerindian descent. The mulatto segment, mix of white and black, represented 6.7% and indigenous people made up 2.4% of the population. Native and European mixed blood populations are far less than in other Latin American countries. Exceptions are Guanacaste, where almost half the population is visibly mestizo, a legacy of the more pervasive unions between Spanish colonists and Corotega Amerindians through several generations, and Limón, where the vast majority of the Afro-Costa Rican community lives. Costa Rica hosts many refugees, mainly from Colombia and Nicaragua. As a result of that and illegal immigration, an estimated 10 to 15% (400,000 to 600,000) of the Costa Rican population is made up of Nicaraguans. Some Nicaraguans migrate for seasonal work opportunities and then return to their country. Costa Rica took in many refugees from a range of other Latin American countries fleeing civil wars and dictatorship during the 1970s and 1980s, notably from Chile and Argentina, as well as people from El Salvador who fled from guerrillas and government death squads. According to the World Bank, in 2010 about 489,200 immigrants lived in the country, many from Nicaragua, Panama, El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, and Belize, while 125,306 Costa Ricans live abroad in the United States, Panama, Nicaragua, Spain, Mexico, Canada, Germany, Venezuela, Dominican Republic, and Ecuador. The number of migrants declined in later years, but in 2015, there were some 420,000 immigrants in Costa Rica, and the number of asylum seekers, mostly from Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala and Nicaragua, rose to more than 110,000, a five-fold increase from 2012. In 2016, the country was called a magnet for migrants from South and Central America and other countries who were hoping to reach the U.S. Religion in Costa Rica. Christianity is Costa Rica's predominant religion, with Roman Catholicism being the official state religion according to the 1949 Constitution, which at the same time guarantees freedom of religion. It is the only state in the Americas which established Roman Catholicism as its state religion. Other such countries are microstates in Europe: Liechtenstein, Monaco, the Vatican City and Malta. The Latinobarometro survey of 2017 found that 57% of the population identify themselves as Roman Catholics, 25% are evangelical Protestants, 15% report that they do not have a religion, and 2% declare that they belong to another religion. This survey indicated a decline in the share of Catholics and rise in the share of Protestants and irreligious. A University of Costa Rica survey of 2018 shows similar rates: 52% Catholics, 22% Protestants, 17% irreligious and 3% other. The rate of secularism is high by Latin American standards. Due to small, but continuous, immigration from Asia and the Middle East, other religions have grown, the most popular being Buddhism, with about 100,000 practitioners, over 2% of the population. Most Buddhists are members of the Han Chinese community of about 40,000 with some new local converts. There is also a small Muslim community of about 500 families, or 0.001% of the population. The Sinagoga Shaarei Zion Synagogue is near La Sabana Metropolitan Park in San Jose. Several homes in the neighborhood east of the park display the Star of David and other Jewish symbols. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints claims more than 35,000 members, and has a temple in San Jose that served as a regional worship center for Costa Rica. However, they represent less than 1% of the population. Languages in Costa Rica. The primary language spoken in Costa Rica is Spanish, which features characteristics distinct to the country, a form of Central American Spanish. Costa Rica is a linguistically diverse country and home to at least 5 living local indigenous languages spoken by the descendants of pre-Columbian peoples: Maliku, Cabécar, Bri-Bri, Guaymi, and Bugler. Of native languages still spoken, primarily in indigenous reservations, the most numerically important are the Bri-Bri, Maliku, Cabécar and Naber languages. Some of these have several thousand speakers in Costa Rica while others have a few hundred. Some languages, such as Taribe and Baruca, have fewer than 1,000 speakers. The Bugler language and the closely related Guaymi are spoken by some in southeast Puntarenas. A Creole English language, Jamaican Patois, also known as Mikatelyu, is an English-based Creole language spoken by the Afro-Carib immigrants who have settled primarily in Limon Province along the Caribbean coast. About 10.7% of Costa Rica's adult population 18 or older also speaks English, 0.7% French, and 0.3% speaks Portuguese or German as a second language. Culture in Costa Rica. Costa Rica was the point where the Mesoamerican and South American native cultures met. The northwest of the country, the Nicoya Peninsula, was the southernmost point of Nahuatl cultural influence when the Spanish conquerors, conquistadores, came in the 16th century. The central and southern portions of the country had Chibcha influences. The Atlantic coast, meanwhile, was populated with African workers during the 17th and 18th centuries. As a result of the immigration of Spaniards, their 16th-century Spanish culture and its evolution marked everyday life and culture until today, with Spanish language and the Catholic religion as primary influences. The Department of Culture, Youth, and Sports is in charge of the promotion and coordination of cultural life. The work of the department is divided into direction of culture, visual arts, scenic arts, music, patrimony and the system of libraries. Permanent programs, such as the National Symphony Orchestra of Costa Rica and the Youth Symphony Orchestra, are conjunctions of two areas of work, culture and youth. Dance-oriented genres, such as soca, salsa, bachata, merengue, cumbia and Costa Rican swing are enjoyed increasingly by older rather than younger people. The guitar is popular, especially as an accompaniment to folk dances, however, the marimba was made the national instrument. In November 2017, National Geographic magazine named Costa Rica as the happiest country in the world. The article included this summary: Costa Ricans enjoy the pleasure of living daily life to the fullest in a place that mitigates stress and maximizes joy. It is not surprising then that one of the most recognizable phrases among Ticos is pura vida, pure life in a literal translation. It reflects the inhabitants' philosophy of life, denoting a simple life, free of stress, a positive, relaxed feeling. The expression is used in various contexts in conversation. Often, people walking down the streets, or buying food at shops say hello by saying pura vida. It can be phrased as a question or as an acknowledgement of one's presence. A recommended response to, "How are you?" would be pura vida. In that usage, it might be translated as awesome, indicating that all is very well. When used as a question, the connotation would be everything is going well, or how are you? Costa Rica rates 12th on the 2017 Happy Planet Index in the World Happiness Report by the UN, but the country is said to be the happiest in Latin America. Reasons include the high level of social services, the caring nature of its inhabitants, long life expectancy and relatively low corruption. Education in Costa Rica. The literacy rate in Costa Rica is approximately 97% and English is widely spoken primarily due to Costa Rica's tourism industry. When the army was abolished in 1949, it was said that the army would be replaced with an army of teachers. Universal public education is guaranteed in the Constitution, primary education is obligatory, and both preschool and high school are free. Students who finish 11th grade receive a Costa Rican Bachillerato diploma accredited by the Costa Rican Ministry of Education. There are both state and private universities. The University of Costa Rica has been awarded the title Meritorious Institution of Costa Rican Education and Culture. A 2016 report by the U.S. government report identifies the current challenges facing the education system, including the high dropout rate among high school students. The country needs even more workers who are fluent in English and languages such as Portuguese, Mandarin and French. It would also benefit from more graduates in science, technology, engineering and math (STEM) programs, according to the report. Sports in Costa Rica. Costa Rica entered the Summer Olympics for the first time in 1936 with the fencer Bernardo de la Guardia and the Winter Olympics for the first time in 1980 with the skier Arturo Kinch. All four of Costa Rica's Olympic medals were won by the sisters Silvia and Claudia Pol in swimming, with Claudia winning the only gold medal in 1996. Football is the most popular sport in Costa Rica. The national team has played in 5 FIFA World Cup tournaments and reached the quarter-finals for the first time in 2014. Its best performance in the regional CONCACAF Gold Cup was runner-up in 2002. Paulo Wanchope, a forward who played for 3 clubs in England's Premier League in the late 1990s and early 2000s, is credited with enhancing foreign recognition of Costa Rican football. Basketball is also a popular sport in Costa Rica even though the country's national team has not yet qualified for a major international tournament such as the FIBA AmeriCup or the FIBA World Cup. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, click on like button. If you want to watch more videos like this, click on the subscription button below, it's free subscription.